got a really strange pile. The top is this one, which I think I can actually open on the bottom like this. And so it's apparently resulting in some unstable DVD piles. Come on, it's already open. Get out. Stubborn packaging. I'm really cranky today for some reason. Oh yeah, and then now the prime packaging is slightly less blue. That's right. Or rather, this plastic packaging thing. Only a little bit very confusing. So we'll go ahead and begin with this. Somebody pointed out that, you know, my limited edition version of Be the Beginning, yeah, that's the B there, was Blu-ray, and Blu-ray DVD was in the standard edition. So I picked this up too because I like to have copies of both. I'm looking at the back here, and that's kind of intriguing. I mean, I've already commented before that the guy on the front looks like Gordon Freeman or something like that. And, okay, yeah, I was just thinking I can't get this out, and that's probably because this sticker right here is covering that hole that tends to be there, and it's adhering to the DVD underneath, and it's wrapping itself up. Yeah. And I'm actually not going to bother with that sticker for some reason. I don't feel like it. Memorable heroes. I mean, it is starring Gordon Freeman, so it should be memorable, right? I wish I remembered what was in the... These look familiar. I think I had those. So is this actually maybe a little poster board thingy? I don't remember if this was in the other one or not. I don't know. We've got disc 1 and disc 2, and disc 1 and disc 2, and these have DVDs, so it was the Blu-rays. It says Blu-ray there, and then the DVDs. Okay. Next up, it looks like we have Mewtwo Strikes Back on DVD and Blu-ray. Actually, this is Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution. The Legend Returns. So I don't exactly know what this movie is. If it's like a remake of the first movie. Still worth kind of exploring, I think, just because, you know, there are aspects of the first movie that are like neat, and it's like, yeah, remember this. There's others that are just like, it's little, I don't know if straightforward's the right word. I guess I'm trying to think what I was thinking, but I'm losing thought. All I know is that looks like Misty and Brock, because it is Misty and Brock, but it looks like them. Unless you remember their Japanese names, and I don't remember Brock's, but I think Misty's was Kasumi? These weird CGI or claymation or doll characters. They all like that? Because so is this maybe a CGI movie? What the fuck? Next up we have Val Love, or Val X Love. There was some neat characters, but I don't know what to make of it or what it is. They look... Well, I say they, but the truth of the matter is I was thinking this character looks a little dominatrix-y. They're 9 beautiful women from Norse mythology, and he's got to Ragnarok their worlds. Okay, sounds like a harem. It looks like Japanese with English subtitles, region A, special features, pretty standard trailers, and clean opening and closing. Okay. Oh yeah, Val is probably like Valkyrie and Val Love or something. I don't know. Hard to tell. Could be neat, could be mediocre, could be bad. And last but not least, we have the Blu-ray complete release of Hayate the Combat Butler, which I'm pretty sure I don't have any of this on Blu-ray. Did I double check? I don't know, doesn't matter, have it now. This is all of it. This is Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, Season 4, and movie. Might be a good excuse to watch it again. It's still Japanese with English subtitles. Region A. Oh, look at that. 101 episodes plus movie and 14 discs. Oh, jeez. That would take a while to get through. Just trying to think. She looks a little older there than I'm used to seeing her as. Maybe? Well, let's take a peek at the inside. Interesting. I was just thinking this is a little more... I think the term might be racy, but... Let's see, I think it's Hayate the Combat Butler, and this is probably the second season. So this is season 1 plus 2 combo. That first disc art looked very familiar. No, that one does too. Five I kind of recognize. Okay. And then we have this one, which should probably be seasons 3 and 4. Cuties. Can't read that. Heaven's a Place on Earth. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 in here. 9 in there. These aren't as familiar, but... And I might have Heaven's a Place on Earth on Blu-ray, just because that might have come out separately on DVD Blu-ray. But... can't recall. Alrighty. Well, here's this week's anime DVD collection update. Alright, so, after all this not watching a whole lot of anime, I mean, I still didn't watch a whole lot, I think, but I did watch a good amount. I did watch Overly Cautious Hero. I guess it's actually Cautious Hero is the short title, and the long title is The Hero is Overpowered but Overly Cautious, and it's okay. It definitely suffers from some problems. So it is an isekai, but because of the way it's structured, it really does just completely neuter all of the things that are usually really fun about an isekai, right? Usually, you know, it's about maybe someone brings something interesting to a medieval type world, or an exploration of that world, or an exploration of that world's systems, different way of living. You know, there's a combination of stuff there, and pretty much none of those are there. Like, there isn't even really exploration of the system of this other world, because the overly cautious nature of this kind of sets it up where our main character kind of just has everything he needs at a point in time, give or take, which kind of means it's not like you have ones where characters are learning new things as they go and you're interested because of that, and I think Reincarnated as a Slime is kind of like that, so that even if he's overpowered, you kind of are like, okay, yeah, but these are the abilities he used. And then you have things like Overlord, where they do pull these out, but the characters are usually other characters experience them, but it's a world exploratory kind of thing. So when they're overpowered there, it's a different kind of exploration, but it's kind of there. But here it's just sort of, it's set up to be anticlimactic sort of stuff, or comedic, but it feels like you don't feel like you're really learning anything more about the characters generally as it goes, so it's pretty weak in that regard. And since our main character doesn't really care about the places he's going, them going places doesn't really matter, because not only is there not exploration generally, but our characters are also, you know, less motivated for that. So, as an isekai, it's kind of weak in that regard. The underlying premise of him being overly cautious is strangely played, because sometimes you'll think, okay, he's not being as overly cautious as they want to say he is. And then sometimes you think of examples, and that's right when the show says, oh, yeah, and here he is doing that thing that you thought he wasn't doing and should be doing, even though... And... yeah, it's... not bad. And for me, I can't really say that it was definitely bad, because, you know, it's not like I didn't enjoy it, I just wasn't particularly excited about continuing, just kind of curious and amused as it went along, and I guess that's it. It's more of a comedy, kinda, because, well, there is this thing there, and it does a good job of keeping you kind of surprised at how it approaches certain things. It's still, you know, again, I mean, I think I commented before about how Goddess was obviously making some strange faces, and I would kind of wonder if the anime would make her live up to that stuff. And yeah, she's pretty much constantly making those, and sometimes it's a little bit eye-rolly, like it's sort of like, oh, you're gonna bring up the thing about how guys shouldn't hit women, even though she was coming at him and he just did to her what she was trying to do to him. Yeah, that's not biased at all, but the show doesn't harp on that sort of stuff too much, so it's only like one or two little moments like that, and for the most part you're just like, yeah, I think that's an appropriate reaction, and you're amused not because she deserves to be treated that way or anything like that, because sometimes you have shows where a character, like, you kind of enjoy their mistreatment because they kind of set themselves up with unreasonable expectations or something like that. I think a really good example is Problem Children Are Coming From Another World, Aren't They? Where you have the bunny girl who tries to set things up, and she's kind of trying to play this thing where it's just like, I'm messing with them by showing that we can play games or something, but they're kind of above her bullshit, and she just has these expectations already in place, and she's kind of trying to be a little controlling, like, not like directly so, but sort of like trying to tell people they shouldn't be doing certain things, because she's like, that's just not what you do and it's dangerous, but then they're also overpowered that it doesn't matter. And it's really, her torment comes from
just her vastly underestimating the situation, I guess, and thinking way more of herself than maybe she should have. To a certain degree. It's basically, if you think the world runs by certain rules that it doesn't actually run by, then sometimes you deserve to just be messed with a little to be reminded that, that's not the case. So for that one, her overreactions come from her bumping up into that wall of her expectations of reality not actually lining up with reality. And that doesn't seem to be the case here, per se. But yeah, overall, it was okay. Again, it was okay. I wouldn't call it great, because it definitely sabotages some of the things that make this scenario that it's presented entertaining. I mean, even the one about the wrestler, I would call a little more interesting, even though it was one of those shows that are like, does not understand the way animals think at all, and that could be intentional again. But entertaining. It generally kept things mixed up, kept things pretty good. Can't really ask for much more than that, I guess. So it could also just be that my opinion about it's about the quality of the show or something like that just happened to be that it wasn't what I was maybe looking for, because I haven't been watching much, so maybe I'm not sure what I'm looking for. I watched One Punch Man Season 2, and yeah, I can kind of see why some people wouldn't like it. So I think the biggest problem with it, so if you look at One Punch Man Season 1, there's a bunch of little story arcs that, they kind of chain together, but you kind of get this resolution in terms of knowing what the show is trying to do at the given moment. And Season 2 kind of didn't have that. Where, they introduced this character who's dangerous, and he's definitely dangerous, but it didn't seem like him being introduced in this season was worth anything in terms of what it did tell. And it's a little less, here's this thing, then here's this thing, then here's this thing, which might make sense, because Season 1, it kind of felt like they got bigger and bigger. And I don't just mean in scope, but I mean in terms of story and how much of the characters in the world are involved and things like that. And this one seemed to flow kind of, well, it almost felt like Season 1 flowed into something that was just bigger than any one individual story arc in Season 1, or maybe even any 3 combined or something like that. I don't even remember if there were that many. And instead, it just kind of became this thing where instead of kind of sort of self-contained stories, now it's just, oh, well, everything just kind of keeps flowing and things just kind of keep happening. And I say it that way as if it's a bad thing, but I guess the problem is it's missing some of that storytellingness that worked for Season 1, where basically you have kind of these little goals. When this thing happens, they're trying to establish this kind of feeling, and you walk away from it saying, oh, okay, so that's the kind of hero that Saitama's going to play. I'm not sure if that's a really good description of what I was thinking. But Season 2, it just is kind of like, no, now the entire world is moving, and Saitama's a part of it, but it's not completely centered on him, and it doesn't feel like the resolution is obviously going to have to involve him, even though you kind of know it does, and it shows up a little bit here and there, but instead there's... So it's a little more alive, but it's a little less... I guess it doesn't quite give as much satisfaction as you would kind of hope it did. Like, each story arc in the first season just felt like it added a little bit on top, and this time I don't think they could add more on top in terms of what Saitama can do, I guess, which basically means that they're going the direction of the world and the heroes and stuff building. And so there's a lot more exploration of especially Class A and Class S heroes, but you know, you get some more insight into heroes, because I think the first season pretty much only really gave you, oh, here's the Class C and here's the Class S, and you kind of look at the Class S heroes and you laugh, and you look at the Class C heroes and you laugh, and then it does this thing where you kind of learn to respect the, you know, what the Class C heroes are doing, even though there's Class Bs and As, I think, peppered in there, and it's really about how, even if they don't seem overpowered, they are doing heroic things, even if some people like are assholes about it. And Class S heroes, while they're looking kind of silly, are, you know, clearly Class S. They are good. I mean, you don't see how many of them are really good. You kind of scratch your head and say, okay, what makes them Class S? And you can, and those characters are explored a lot more in here. Ow, my leg is tight for some reason. I was holding it weird. You learn a lot more of the characters and why, okay, they're actually kind of respectable to a certain degree. And I think to give it some credit, Terrible Tornado is not relied upon very heavily in here. Like, she as a character, you can kind of tell is designed to be pretty bonkers among Class S. And so, to a certain degree, she seems like she's a good, I guess, straight man to Saitama, sort of. Or more like she would be a very good, she has this expectation of reality and she has the attitude and she really does deserve to butt heads against that wall, which she did in a little bit in Season 1, but they didn't use her for that here. And I think that's a good thing, because this isn't designed to be just a Season 2. This is clearly Season 2, and Season 3 is without a doubt there. Season 1 of One Punch Man could have just been there on its own, because it kind of gives an implication of things to go on from there, but not a need to continue on, whereas this one gives a need to continue on. So, you know, a lot of weird stuff, but overall, you know, it had a lot of really neat things in it. I'm glad I watched it. I think I enjoyed a lot of it. I definitely had a moment in there where they had this giant centipede, millipede sort of thing, and I couldn't help but think, oh, wow, this part where they're running along and shooting at the head way over there, that would make an awesome video game boss. And the friend I watched it with was thinking it should be a Zelda boss, and, you know, that would be really appropriate. It's just too bad that Breath of the Wild 2 is probably already in not only already in development, it's probably far along in development to the point where they couldn't, but wouldn't it be kind of neat if there was a boss in an open world thing like that that was a giant centipede, and you're like running along it and shooting arrows at the head or something like that, which you can never quite catch up to. That would actually be pretty awesome, I think. But I don't think we can blame Nintendo for not doing that. So, you know, a little too late to include something that big, but that was pretty awesome. And then, was there anything else to mention? No, I think I already mentioned, yeah. It's definitely the sort of thing where you're like, okay, now we definitely need a Season 3. And then last but not least, I did try to watch some of this. I never quite finished the first episode. It just didn't grab my attention enough for me to say, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to finish it today. But I think I talked about this speculation when I opened it up that it could be a very Shota-esque sort of show, sort of like Quetzalcoatl and the boy there, and it does seem to be set up sort of along that way. I guess the main reason I didn't care too much for it, so I guess the idea is he's very androgynous. He's got an androgynous name, androgynous looks, so people assume he's a girl, and his sister apparently dressed him up or something like that, and he wants to be a manly man, but the problem is he as a main character isn't quite doing it for me, because what I want to see is not his constant interactions with her. Because they've set it up where he wants to seem like that, but she seems like one of those airheaded characters that's just like, huh? What do you mean I was rubbing my boobies all over you? I don't remember that. Well, maybe she wouldn't say she doesn't remember that, but she just does it as if, like, her boobs encompass the entirety of space or something weird like that. And it's just like, I think it works if you're into some of these fetishes. But from a storytelling perspective, you know, I was kind of waiting for it to give me something other than, these two are just a couple, and I never did completely finish it. And, I mean, it's really bad because he's afraid of, like, going to school, whether or not he's going to interact with people. I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to see him interacting with other people, because as neat as a character as she is, and as, I'm trying to think of the right word to describe that feeling of, like, she does seem like she would be entertaining to snuggle with, I guess. I want to see him interact with more characters, and they even have other dorm mates who just kind of came in and kind of came out. It's like, if I were to say that there was anything about this that wasn't working for me, it was just that there was too much interaction between these characters and not enough setup for me to say, okay, I appreciate what he's trying to do. Because as it is right now, it seems like I mean, calling him a 5-year-old kid isn't very nice. He is in middle school, but it still seems like one of those things where it's just like trying to set up this person who isn't identifying with reality, and the people around him aren't really trying to help him or hinder him. It's just sort of like they're talking past each other because she doesn't know any better, and he's basically handling it in a not particularly mature way, I guess. Not like a completely immature, but it's just sort of like, you can't just say, I'm going to be manly man, and then kind of have really weird or incomplete ideas of what that means, if that makes sense. So, yeah, for me, the main character wasn't working out in the first episode, and usually you give it a little bit. In fact, since I didn't complete the first episode, I think I was 20 minutes in, so probably was just at the end there. Usually you give it a little more time, because sometimes, you know, the first episodes can be, they can be held down by this beginning scenarios, and it's really what happens when they break out of that. But yeah, I never reached that point, so yeah, not necessarily a bad show. I just it just didn't cater to my interests enough for me to continue going on. Trying to look if these pictures down here in the bottom left are saying anything, and no. This almost seems like the kind of show which is really literally about him being in there, and then it's dependent on you feeling the chemistry between the main character and the girl. And my main problem is just that I don't like his self-imposed unreasonable things. And, you know, part of that is just what he's dealing with, but anyways, it's an interesting one. I'm trying to think how it would compare to something else that I would call completely fetishy, like, I cannot remember its name. It's a girl with all the vampire guys who can't help but want to bite her, and she's like, no, stop. But it's always about pushing those boundaries. You know, that one was definitely another fetishy one, but I think that one's story relied completely on the fetish, and I'm not sure about this one. So I can't even compare. I don't even know why I'm still even talking about it, considering that you can't really call what I did a fair watch. You can just say that, yeah, I didn't continue on. Okay, and now the only question is there anything else worth talking about? Because I don't think so. Just you know, playing video game stuff here and there, but also sleep. Sleep was nice. Yeah, don't think I even really did anything. Just a little Among Us, a little Phasmophobia, a little VR chat. Didn't even really work on my Unity world, so nothing else to really update. I guess we we got Thanksgiving coming up. Probably going to make another attempt to record me talking about working on certain parts of it. Although I'm not sure if, because the real problem is there's a lot of setup stuff along the way in the day that I can record and talk about, but once you hit those last 30 to 60 minutes, things just become a little too busy to talk about any one thing because you're needing to juggle a lot of things. So I don't know if I'll record that, and the truth of the matter is, even if I record it, I'm only going to post it if I have any weeks which don't have any updates, and to be honest, I am behind on my pre-ordering of DVDs, so I have to do that. So I don't know. Hopefully y'all will have a nice Thanksgiving, or for Canadian viewers, if y'all are there, maybe you had a nice Thanksgiving. So yeah, and have a nice week.